You know, sometimes one moment flips everything upside down. One mistake, one decision, one crash, and suddenly the entire Formula One paddock is on fire. That's exactly what just happened. This wasn't just a racing incident. This was a bomb going off inside Mercedes. And the shockwaves? They're still echoing through the garages, through the press rooms, through every team principal's office. Kim Antonelli just got hit with a harsh penalty after the controversial collision with Max Verstappen in Austria. 3-place grid drop for Silverstone, 2 points on his super license, and a whole lot more behind the scenes. What looked like a technical penalty quickly turned into a political storm. Because here's the thing, it wasn't just a crash. It wasn't just a rookie mistake. It was a rookie crashing into that guy, Max Verstappen, on the first lap of a Grand Prix. That image alone, that's the kind of moment that burns into the sport's collective memory. Antonelli locking up the rears, losing the car entirely on the dirty inside line, and Max, just a passenger in someone else's mess, out of the race before turn 4. The contact wasn't just mechanical, it was symbolic. It was a new kid touching the untouchable. And in F1, that's a sin that doesn't go unnoticed. The FIA made it official. Full responsibility on Antonelli. But when you dig into their reasoning, it gets murky. Kim claimed he was trying to avoid a collision with Liam Lawson up ahead, briefly releasing the brakes and losing even more grip on the slippery inside. Was it a mistake? Absolutely. But also a desperate judgment call in the chaos of lap 1. And that's where the debate really starts to boil inside Mercedes. This isn't being treated as just a learning experience. The crash has thrown an uncomfortable spotlight on the entire team, particularly on the decision to throw Kim into a top-tier car this early in his career. The penalty wasn't just for the driver, it was a message to the whole team. Put a young talent in the middle of a heavyweight war, and you'll pay the price. And now that price has a name: Silverstone. Red Bull, meanwhile, is keeping their public statements calm, but behind closed doors? They're already pushing for a tougher stance from the FIA going forward. Because losing a championship to a rookie's misjudgment, that's the kind of nightmare no team wants to relive. And that's not all. Sources say Toto Wolff is fuming about how the entire situation was handled. Mercedes had hoped for a quiet, steady ramp-up for Antonelli. What they've got instead is an international controversy. And from here on out, every misstep will be treated as a pattern, as a repeat offense. What started as a bad Sunday has spiraled into something far more serious. Over at Red Bull, the crash wasn't just a DNF. It was the final blow in a weekend that was already unraveling. After a disastrous Austrian Grand Prix, 0 points and their lead driver out on the first lap, Christian Horner delivered a statement that set the paddock on edge. What he didn't say publicly is being screamed in the background. Because now, the future of Max Verstappen is under more pressure than ever before. Horner tried to downplay the speculation with a cold, dismissive line. All this noise isn't coming from us. But that statement, short and clinical, did nothing to put out the fire. In fact, it only fueled it. Especially with rumors swirling that Mercedes is going all in to lure Max away from Red Bull for 2026, despite his contract running through 2028. The way Horner avoids questions about Max's contract, it's no accident. Even when asked directly, he dodges like every word might detonate a landmine. And maybe it really could, because Verstappen's contract isn't as airtight as it looks, and no one in the Red Bull camp wants to admit that. Not now. Not with McLaren taking control, Ferrari growing stronger, and Mercedes, even in a rough patch, being treated like a serious threat. But the quote that really hit the paddock came hidden behind frustration. They finished 62 seconds behind the leader today. They've got their own problems. That's Horner, trying to shift attention back to Mercedes, but all it did was underline the chaos inside his own camp. Because let's not forget, this is a team that, not so long ago, looked unbeatable. Now, that dominant car is a confused, fragile mess. And as Red Bull fights to keep their walls from crumbling, Mercedes had its own disaster unfold in the harsh heat of Spielberg. Coming off a brilliant win in Canada, George Russell was supposed to carry momentum. Instead, the team collapsed. Antonelli out on lap 1. Hamilton beaten soundly. Russell gritting his teeth all the way to a distant 5th place, more than 30 seconds behind the next car. But it wasn't the result that caught people's attention. It was Russell's brutal honesty. "I expected a bad race, but this was worse than I imagined." He actually said that. And then he dropped a bombshell, that the car breaks down completely when the tires overheat, and that it's been happening in half the races this year. According to him, the team's known about this for 6 months, and despite all the behind-the-scenes work, nothing's changed. A direct slap in the face to the once great engineering team at Brackley, the very people who built a dynasty not long ago. Then came the dagger. "If the temperatures in Silverstone are like last year, we'll have a chance. If they're like 2 weeks ago, we won't stand a chance at all." That right there, that's a driver calling out his team, live to the world, in the middle of a technical crisis. And if you think that was dramatic, Ferrari had their own behind-the-scenes drama boiling over. With team boss Fred Vasseur absent from the pit wall, officially for personal reasons, Lewis Hamilton sent a message loud and clear. He said, calmly, "Everything worked better this weekend because things were calmer." Simple words. But if you know Ferrari, you know what he meant. It sounded like a compliment. But buried in there was a ruthless critique that Ferrari, without its team principle breathing down their necks, operated better. Even without a podium, Hamilton was satisfied, and that's telling. Because internally, the story's different. Vasseur's absence may have been explained publicly, but rumors are swirling. That the top brass isn't happy, that his position is shaky. And Hamilton? He didn't hold back. He said the atmosphere was different, more methodical, more relaxed, that it made a huge difference. For someone who just joined the team and hasn't tasted the podium in 2025, those words carry weight, especially when said with such quiet confidence. Then, when asked about the crashes that tend to happen in Austria between title contenders, Hamilton dropped this. "Well, Max isn't up front, so I'm not going to crash into anyone." Dry. Ironic. But coming from Hamilton, that's a pointed jab. A reminder that the Red Bull chaos isn't just about Kim Antonelli. It's about Verstappen too. It's about where he stands, and about how much he's still willing to take. And yet, somehow, Hamilton remains the epicenter of the political and technical discussions inside Ferrari. No podiums, but full influence. The team listens to him, the car's getting better slowly. And the tension around Vasseur, it's only rising. You can feel it. Hamilton is carving out space, building trust, and maybe even forcing a change at the top. Because if Vasseur wants to survive, he might have to start bending to the man with 7 world titles. So where does all of this leave us? We've got a rookie crashing into the sport's biggest name, a team boss ducking contract questions like they're bullets, a world champion openly challenging his new team's leadership, and a car that falls apart if the sun shines too hard. Austria wasn't just a race, it was a pressure cooker exploding in slow motion. And now, heading into Silverstone, everyone's feeling the heat.